We'd like to introduce Evan Lowe, President and Chief Medical Officer of Paratech. Evan, what is Paratech? What do you guys do?
So we're a biotech company, and we're currently focused on making antibiotics that will improve the health of the world.
Interesting. A biotech company. And where's the money coming from to fund the growth and the development of this business?
Currently, we're a public company and from the public markets.
Interesting. So you're a public company. And how large or how small is the team right now?
Still small, just about 50 employees
about
today.
50 employees. Where are you from originally?
Born in Waterbury, Connecticut. Grew up in New Haven, Connecticut.
All right. And where are Mom and Dad from?
So Mom and Dad are from China.
They were from China. And when did they come to the United States?
They came in 1955.
What was it like coming from China to the United States in 1955? That was when communism was being talked about in the United States, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a period of time.
It was McCarthyism, where there was a lot of stuff going on in this country about foreigners are bad. Your parents came to this country in that period of time?
They did. They needed to make a life for themselves. They had just lived through actually 2 periods of time where they had lived through collapsing societies, where the Japanese came in.
What did Mom and Dad do? What did Mom and Dad do when they came to the United States?
So they came here not speaking English, and they decided that they needed to train in medicine. And so my dad took on a rotating internship in medicine in Denver, Colorado.
Wait, hold on for a second. Wait. Your parents came here not speaking English, and they decided they needed to take on what? They needed to become doctors?
For my dad, yes.
Your dad became a doctor?
Yes.
And he wasn't speaking English when he came here? That's right. Not too easy, by the way. And Mom ended up being a nurse, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Harvard College.
You went to Harvard, and you're a doctor as well?
Yes, sir.
What kind of doctor?
I'm a cardiologist by training.
Cardiologist. And so, your parents worked real hard, and I'm wondering, and you went to Harvard. And I wonder what the effect of your parents was on you and is on you.
Oh, massive. I mean, in every fiber of my body, in many ways. I mean, they set up an environment for me to learn and to basically figure out, how to actually be successful today, and primarily driven by hard work.
And you're a cardiologist, huh? Jeffrey, didn't you have a question there?
Yeah, when we were talking earlier, Evan, you were trained as a cardiologist, you were working at Penn, and there was a pivotal moment in your experience there where you noticed a patient in the hospital really didn't have control. And how did that experience impact your career and how you're working at Paratech?
The art of medicine, I think, is really just so simple to think about. The art of medicine, in terms of the care, but also the healing that you can provide for patients, is driven by the relationship between the patient and the physician. And the way I approached it, and what I thought was most important, was always to be able to be respectful to patients who, in fact, have been placed in an environment that's unfamiliar. They're scared. And for me as a physician, for my bedside manner, it was always important for me to make eye-to-eye contact. And in order to do that, I needed to respect their space. I never sat on their beds, but I always pulled up a chair and sat down next to them so I could look at them directly and just explain to them what exactly was going on.
You mentioned the words, the art of medicine. What does that mean?
The art of medicine is actually the many different facets of the way that you can actually offer healing. It is less, I think, in some ways about the medicines or the procedures that you offer, but it's actually about the compassion, and it's your ability to actually make the connection that you need in order for the patient to feel as if they actually have a path forward to healing.
Wait a minute, wait. It sounds like you believe that there's some faith, there's some spiritual connection with this healing stuff.
Well, I was brought up as a Christian, and I thought, as I went into medicine too, there was initially formulaic algorithms that you get taught, but you learn very, very quickly that it is less about that particular intervention or that particular medicine, but is actually how you actually choose to hold the hand of that patient to guide them through a very difficult, complex, scary, and Byzantine system.
Peter?
Dr. Lowe, earlier in the green room, you shared a lesson in humility with us about a letter. Can you tell us about that letter?
Yeah, as I grew up, I found that, there was a place through my parents where you needed to really assert yourself, and you needed to fight for what you thought was right. And in some ways, that has actually instilled me with the energy that I take on for new projects. That being said, when I came into a new environment when I was at Penn, I had a encounter with a colleague where that colleague's choice and also behavior towards me didn't meet my standards. And I needed to figure out how I was going to deal with that particular situation as a new young faculty member breaking into that system. They didn't know me because I wasn't brought up in that system. And I chose to write a letter. And I wanted to put my thoughts down, and I wanted to send that letter on to that colleague. But
you put it in a drawer. and put it
Yeah,
away.
because there was a mentor at the top. Jeffrey, did you have a question?
yeah.
Yeah, back to your mother. You've kind of followed in the footsteps of your dad being a doctor, but your mom being a nurse. You told us some wisdom that she imparted in you. What was that, Evan?
Well, my mother, in some ways, was a little bit more insightful into the environment that she moved into here in the United States. And she understood that, we were not white and Caucasian. We were actually yellow-skinned and Asian in an environment where the Asian Exclusion Act was actually still very active in the mid-1950s. And so she said to me, in order for you to be successful here, you need to put your head down. We'll create the environment for you to study hard, but you need to be twice as good as anyone else out there in order to be considered just as good. And so there was really that level of mandate that was put in front of me.
Bashara?
Dr. Lowe, with that mandate in mind, how did that transition and translate into how you raise your own children? Do you still keep that mandate in place, or have you shifted from that?
It's a struggle, Bashar. Thank you for the question, because I think that what I really wanted for my son, who's now 25, is for him to pursue what he loves to do. I've had a life where, in many ways, everything that I chose to take on was actually an honor and a privilege. I never really thought that I've had a job, because everything that I've done I've really loved doing, and I want him to pursue that as well. And I don't want him to have the contagion and the burden of the way my parents shared their needs with me in terms of what they thought I should be doing. And I think in his particular case, I want him to actually go out into the world and enjoy himself.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Lowe, you are truly a special and gifted physician. Why did you leave patient care to run this company called Paratech?
When I was running the heart transplantation program at the University of Pennsylvania Health System, it was a remarkably honorable and privileged situation where I could save lives on a patient-by-patient basis. As I wanted to learn more and make a bigger impact in the world, I knew that in the pharmaceutical industry you could actually, if you did it well and you did it right, you could make a difference in patients' lives, not on a patient-by-patient basis, but you could extend that to tens of thousands, if not millions of patients, if you were able to move the right technology forward. And so that's what I took on.
Excellent. Jeffrey?
Evan, when we were talking earlier about the future of Paratech, you really lit up when you talked about how the multiples of patients that the company could help going forward. What's the future looking like for Paratech?
We're very excited about what we have in front of us. It's actually a broad-spectrum intravenous and oral antibiotic that the way I talk about it in my company is that this is an antibiotic that your mother, father, brother, sister, grandmother, grandfather could have the opportunity to use and to save their lives. And if that's the passion, if that drives your raison d'etre for working in my company, please come with us on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
How are you talked about holding the hand of the patient with compassion. How are you doing that with this drug, this antibiotic that you're creating?
Well, I think it's as I said earlier, that I think you have to put the right context into why you actually are doing what you're doing. In this particular case, I think I am substituting my ability to be at the bedside with my ability to provide innovative technologies.
Bashara?
Speaking of hand-holding, did you have anybody hold your hand across your journey? Mentors, somebody that helped you and guided you throughout?
Oh, so many. I can't name them all, and every one of them are wonderful. I was just recently at a reception for a colleague who's just retiring up in Boston, and it's great to remember the times that they actually helped you actually think differently about
How
problems.
important was mentorship for you?
Massively important. As I've gotten older, I continue to seek them out. I can't have enough in my life.
What is the website address for Paratech?
Paratechpharma.com.
Excellent. We've been speaking with Dr. Evan Lowe, President and Chief Medical Officer of Paratech here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com.